You're listening to Redshirt Cinema Club, a weekly podcast about watching movies with friends. Today we're starting our Star Wars journey, but not with A New Hope, nor A Phantom Menace, or even A Force Awakens, but with a mailbag and some memories. So grab a glass of blue milk, and let's make the jump to a galaxy far, far away. A sea of stars is broken by the vast blue surface of the planet Ogana. 5 small moons slowly drift into view from the far side of the planet. The main titles are followed by a roll-up. Hello and welcome to Redshirt Cinema Club. I am your host, Master David Jackson, joined today, as always, by Darth Pearson.
Hello.
And Nathan the Hutt.
I've enjoyed that a lot, more than I should have done.
I swapped those around several times.
Rob is definitely the evil one. It's fine.
And that was the very first paragraph that George Lucas committed to ink in the very first draft of Star Wars, or at the time, The Star Wars, better known today as Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. My God.
That guy's been renaming this thing since
really
he very began.
Didn't stand a chance, did we? It's Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, where we begin our story. Yes, this is the start of Star Wars season. If I'm honest, a day I had hoped would never come, because despite of all of the things that I'll tell you that annoy me about it, Star Wars is important to me in a way that I fear I will never actually be able to express. But fear leads to the dark side eventually, and so, a lot like Luke Skywalker, I must face my fears. Besides, it's not all about me. Nathan, Rob like Star Wars a bit too, apparently. Or do they? Well, we thought we'd spend this first episode exploring just that, as well as where Star Wars first came from. And we've got some of your listener emails to read as well, which I really enjoyed. I mean, I think we always enjoy them, but maybe it's because it's about Star Wars. There's some really good stuff that I'm looking forward to getting to. So I thought we should start at the top. I think my Star Wars credentials, by which I just mean I've told everyone I like it a lot, are quite well known.
Sure.
Nath,
hello. You're
You're a Star Wars fan, aren't you?
I'm the oldest and biggest Star Wars fan here. Yes.
Physically, you are huge.
I'm the Hutt. I'm the Hutt. Yes, I am. Yeah, it was, and I've written about this in a Civilian Observer.
Okay.
And
I thought you were going to drop a real publication, but
no,
like a sort of
our own publication
in print. I've written about this in
I've self-published a very important book about this.
A manifesto.
So, my memories of Star Wars are from being a small child and going... So we used to live just outside London. We used to come back into London every weekend to see my mum's dad. My dad's mum on one day, and then my mum's mum on the other day. And my dad's mum, my nana, had a VCR, which in early days, mid-80s, had a VCR and had Star Wars taped off one of the first showings on TV at one of the Christmases in the mid-80s. And I used to just watch it every weekend. We used to go. Sunday would be go there, eat some terrible food. She was an awful cook, and watch Star Wars. It was on.
My dad's mum was an awful cook as well.
Well, maybe I don't know what this means for us.
My dad's mum only cooked one thing well.
What was that?
Gingered pork.
I mean, that is pretty good though.
It was really good.
So specific.
It sounds horrible.
Let's not get too off topic because we've only got an hour for this.
We're not.
And I was just about to get off topic in my own way, which is to say that the memory of this room, she lived in these incredible rent-controlled apartment, basically on Clapham Common North Side.
Nice.
Called Grove Mansion. So it overlooked the park.
Yeah.
It had a balcony.
Wow.
They had a dog called Hector because my Uncle Alan was super into Roman history. Which I only realised later. Hector is a strange name for a dog. And I used to just watch it every weekend. Just Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars. Then you obviously got all the toys and bits and pieces. But I love Star Wars.
There was some nuance to my question, which is, are you a fan?
Fuck you, I love Star Wars.
Are you a fan of Star Wars?
Yeah, enormous.
Okay.
Enormous. And all the pain that's come with it over the last few days.
Yes, indeed. And Rob, I'm interested to ask you this question because I feel like you like Star Wars. Certainly bits of it. Are you a fan of Star Wars?
No, but I think I like more Star Wars things than you do.
I think that's just the
crux of fandom right there, isn't it? I remember distinctly coming out of Return of the Jedi. No, what's the 8th one?
Revenge.
The Last Jedi.
This is
the Last Jedi.
This is the end. Why am I saying that?
Episode 8, The Last Jedi.
Yes.
And just being so annoyed at just the solemn cloud of misery of all of you just standing there, just.
Well, that is not a.
And then after episode 9, I got back to the office after we'd been to see it at the cinema, and I just thought, oh, they were going to have loved that. In fact, it was Yoda in episode 8 that I was like, I remember sitting in the cinema thinking in my head, being just really happy for you.
Yeah.
I was like, Dave's going to be loving this.
Yeah.
Dave's going to love this because Yoda's like he was all sort of kooky and eccentric like he was in the first time you see him.
I'm trying to think what the sort of the example for you would be. What would it be, Nath? It would be like watching Lord of the Rings and someone from The Hobbit pops up, I guess, or vice versa. You know, just like they've shoehorned someone in. Just get them back. They're a fan favourite.
Well, it'll be a Search for Gollum. Will be there'll just be some Gandalf in it, and Rob will be like, "Kill me."
Yeah, exactly. Or Ian Holmes' ghost
please.
in the
Not again.
Alien Resurrection, or I can't forget.
Romulus.
We've seen too many films.
I'm very tired today. Can I ask you though why you aren't a fan of Star Wars? Because I think you should be.
Well, it's always just been fine. I think. I don't know why. The first time I saw it was when they re-released them all in the cinema just before The Phantom Menace came out, and my dad made a big deal of like, oh, I loved Star Wars when I was a kid. I'm going to take you to see Star Wars.
Was this was you seeing them for the first time?
Yeah.
Right, okay. The re-releases.
97.
No, yeah. So I'd have been around 10 years old.
Okay.
You think the perfect age to be introduced to Star Wars for the first time.
I would have thought so, yes.
And even my mum was like, oh, the day I was going to the cinema to see it, she was like, oh, I'm going to really like it. You're going to really like Star Wars. I think you're really going to like R2-D2. I was like, what the fuck is that? It's like, oh, just wait. And all I remember from that night, I remember just feeling just nonplussed by it. Yeah. Just quite flat. Found it, the only I remember.
This is A New Hope you're talking about.
Yeah, I remember seeing Darth Vader
Quite
spinning
flat.
away.
Right. Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah.
And then I remember everyone being really angry because we went to Pizza Hut afterwards and we had to wait 45 minutes for our pizza to come. And just remember my dad complaining to the 17-year-old waiter.
Yeah.
Now, we ordered our pizza before that table ordered their pizza.
Yeah.
And we're still waiting for our pizza.
Sorry,
like a table
can
of
I
12
just check,
people.
Is this Pizza Hut or is it no Pizza Hut? Where am I?
So
I had a headache and I just wanted to go home and I was having a miserable time.
You used to get headaches even then.
That's why everyone gets headaches,
It's
doesn't it?
it's fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate leads to headaches.
Yeah.
And then I've told you before about when Return of the Jedi came out.
Yeah.
My dad was like half an hour late.
Yeah, he's just a huge miss.
Came in and it's just never really captured my imagination. I don't know why.
Well, let's see what we can do about that, Dave. It's almost like the beginning of the pod again. We're here trying to convince Rob to like.
Yeah, but I've seen them all.
That's also true.
I'm not gonna. Well, that's why I wanted to
you
ask. Have you seen all the movies?
You've seen the beginning of Return of the Jedi?
I've seen all of the I've seen all of the 9 main episodes.
Okay,
I've seen Rogue One on a plane once.
that's how it was intended to be viewed.
And
yes.
I've not seen Solo.
I think I've seen Rogue One probably as much on like very small clips of it on TikTok as I have the entire movie, which I've watched twice.
Yes.
Just watching those edits over and over again.
It's just that
you've gone-
bit where
He's going to fight.
Darth Vader comes in the corridor at the end and
That's pretty good.
and that's all I
I
remember
think the
of
whole
that.
thing's great now. Now that I've become an Andor cultist.
I haven't seen Andor.
Have you seen what of the TV shows have you seen?
I've seen the first 2 seasons of 2 seasons of The Mandalorian, and I think that's it.
That's probably you've done well there. You've probably done the right.
I've not seen any Andor. I've not seen the Book of Boba Fett. I've not seen the Ashoka.
Oh God,
whatever it is.
We need to agree now
bad
if we're going to
ones in
watch
there.
all of the trilogy that it's Boba Fett, right? It's not Boba Fett. I think it's Boba Fett.
I think it's Boba Fett.
Boba Fett.
Where?
Exactly.
I didn't know for years what he was saying there. No idea. Because
Why would you know?
why would you know? I didn't know Boba Fett was called Boba Fett. I think it's like the
What
first
did you think
time
he was
he's-
called?
Well, he didn't have a name. He was just no disintegrations. He was just told stuff.
Yeah,
His
that's
character's
true.
never introduced. By the way, this is Mr. Fett.
By the way, this is Mr. Fett.
He'll be hunting your bounty today.
The name's Fett.
So I mean, that's like that kind of sums up Star Wars in a way. Maybe that right there. Just no, it doesn't at all. But like just saying Boba Fett which is a phrase I've never heard
Boba
before,
Fett.
to an audience who've never heard it before,
Yeah.
and just expecting them to understand what is being talked about. It's so peculiarly
It's obscure.
obscure in Star Wars. It was interesting. I planned to spend this whole year reading about Star Wars in preparation for this podcast.
I remember you saying.
In fact, I spent about 10 minutes last night reading about Star Wars, and it was really interesting.
A great 10 minutes.
But yeah, it was. That's why I'm so tired. That 10 minutes is really taking me out, and it was just really fascinating reading. And I can see this, how much George Lucas hates writing.
Yes.
He's not a writer, and he hates writing, and he'll tell you he's not a writer. And I think I read that the movie he made before this, of course, American Graffiti, he wrote in 3 weeks, and I've not seen it, and it's a big glaring miss, a void in my sort of watching history, especially as someone who really
We should
loves
maybe watch
Star Wars.
I put the fucking Ewok movie in as the bonus episode, but we maybe should have done THX and American Graffiti. It would have made way more sense.
It would have made more sense.
I've gone crazy.
But I'm sort of more excited to watch the Ewok movies. I've never
Caravan
seen
of
them in a way.
Courage.
It's the
I'm
Ewok
sure-
movie on Disney Plus.
It is.
Yeah, thank God. Rob's in. Rob will be
He's just
watching that
nodding.
movie. Not sure the others where the others might live, but yeah, he wrote that in 3 weeks. I haven't seen it, but I hear it's kind of quite. It's not. There's not a lot of writing in it. Again, he
Sure.
wrote it in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Star Wars, he wrote in 3 years, and I read that just a lot of that time was just writing. Some days he was just writing down words, just weird sounding words, and
Jedi
some of
Bendu.
those, yeah, exactly, Jedi Bendu. What was at the top here? Obviously, the planet Organa, which would become, I guess, at some point,
Bail
Leia Organa, Bail Organa.
Mace Windu was no Mace Windy, I believe, was like in one
Mace
of the,
Windy.
was in the first treatment. The Chronicles of the Wills? That was the
Yes.
load of bullshit, isn't it?
I was extremely I do feel for him. We've talked about this before.
Not being a writer.
Not being a writer, and also having not stumbled across, but like he's written something that people were like, everybody stop everything.
Sure.
This guy he's discovered a galaxy far, far away, which is actually incredible, and I need to know everything about it right now. Let's ask him. And he's just like, I just wanted to do some pretty pictures. Also did like just an awful lot of, I think it's okay to say, stealing from tons of other
People
movies.
steal. I think it's fine to steal.
It's definitely fine not to steal. You wouldn't steal a film.
Do you know
You wouldn't
something I've had in my head for ages, and it came from the official Sooty and Co.
Oh my God.
Twitter page, and it's a picture of Sweep, and he's got like a little policeman's helmet, and he's leaning into the frame, and it just says, "You wouldn't steal a sausage." And I saw it last week, and I've not been able to stop thinking about it since.
Yeah.
You wouldn't steal a
But
sausage.
he's got a point.
But I mean, Sweep does steal sausage as part of his whole deal. Anyway,
Yeah.
so go on.
Well, I know,
Star
I'm not
Wars.
sure what my point is really. Just that this non-writer, very much a filmmaker, very kind of photographic background, arty
Yes.
background. He came up. I know that he was like a sort of an artist. Well, or certainly he could draw, and he enjoyed painting and things like that. I didn't realise that he was a boy racer who didn't really have much of a plan or a dream or anything. I think he flunked school until he had this near-death crash, and it turned his life around, and decided that he wanted to make something of his life. Every day was a gift. And I think it also very much informed. He's a very philosophical guy. I didn't really fully get, and it makes so much sense when you think about the idea of the Force. I don't think that is something that George Lucas has just pulled out of thin air. And again, it's very influenced by a lot of reading he did on philosophy, but also just his own beliefs about life and the meaning of it, and people working together, and the balance of things.
I've read a couple of biographies of Lucas, and I read the book I would recommend to anybody listening to this that I really enjoyed. Is called Blockbuster. It's by a film critic called Tom Shon, who still writes for the Sunday papers and stuff. And it's about this like Spielberg, Lucas kind of filmmaking generation, and it's kind of a defense of it, because I think when he wrote it in the early noughties, there's been lots of glamorization of the new Hollywood generation of Scorsese and Coppola. And there was that book, Easy Riders, Raging Bulls, which was about how that they kind of brought artistic filmmaking back to Hollywood. And then the blockbusters, which came from Lucas and Spielberg, who were friends with those other people, but they started this sort of chain of events which led to blockbusters, which by the 90s had turned into things like Independence Day and Godzilla, and had moved quite far away from that spirit of filmmaking. And this book is basically a defense of the feeling that you get watching, recontextualizing stuff like Jaws and Star Wars and just remembering how magical it was in the first place. Yeah. And one of the things that Tom Sean points out is just how much of living in Modesto in the middle of the desert, driving fast cars, like how much that is plugged straight into Star Wars in terms of like a farm boy in the middle of nowhere on this sandy planet in the middle of
he's like a real life pod racer.
Back end of yes, 100%.
Very much so. And also
just
a little bit.
I showed Independence Day to my daughter at the weekend. That was our latest cinema.
She liked
it. She loved it.
Okay, there we go.
Good. Maybe she likes Star Wars.
Yeah.
Or like the idea of like this old future, like the idea of having to work, tuning up your car, and like that's inherent. Like all the X-Wings are just cool as fuck, aren't they? Or even his little speeder or whatever. It's just tinkering. I
think also just there's a little bit of Luke Skywalker in him. I mean, this is just it's a classic thing anyway, but it's trope anyway. But it's also a George Lucas thing, which was he eventually had dreams of going away, and his dad, I read, who owned I think he owned a stationery shop or something. He was just like, no, you'll finish school and then you'll come and work in the stationery shop and then you'll take it over after me. And, and he was like, I want to go away I want to join the rebellion or whatever. I want to go and become a pilot. And he was like, no, this is what you're going to do. And he had these dreams of going away. And I think he had to sort of make it happen in the end. He had to save up and at least an amount of money to and obviously he had to pass his exams to go to these places. And there's a lot of George Lucas in these movies as well. I think I'm sort of reticent to talk too long about our experience with Star Wars because there's some great mailbag to get through, and also I think it's going to come out in the rest of the series, which I'm excited to get to.
Also, I worry about you and I, Dave, especially because we've got like this classic, I would say that one thing is important to note is, we're a positive podcast and we've tried to shy away from areas of like fan entitlement or resentment or just echoing the stuff that there's an economy of being angry about things you feel entitled to as a fan these days. And we've tried to avoid that. And, Alien Earth was maybe the closest we got to being pretty fed up with something.
Yeah.
And so you and I, as people who have not enjoyed a lot of latter Star Wars, have felt detached even from being able to talk about it.
Yes.
Because we don't want to just have the same opinions as terrible, terrible people.
No, unfortunately, there's a lot of people who dislike the same movies I dislike, but for completely different reasons that I don't agree with. And
or
there's
even
some
just
bad rhetoric around some of these movies.
A different extent, right? I can kind of I think you are right, there's some just straight up racism and sexism out there, but there's also things I didn't enjoy, but my reaction is, oh well. And their reaction is, they've stolen something from me and it's a crime. And I guess I want to put out that I don't feel like that. And what I try and do instead is enjoy the bits of Star Wars that come along. I didn't really enjoy the Obi-Wan series, for example.
No.
But there's a few scenes in there of Obi-Wan.
There are some great scenes in there.
And even if they're just tiny moments, and I've got to say, even as someone who didn't really enjoy the prequel films, seeing Hayden Christensen come out at Star Wars Celebration and get that reception and being in front of that audience, I'm sure he goes to conventions and stuff, but that was obviously a moment where he was kind of being celebrated and welcomed back into the fold. That was really emotional for even me, because he was just trying his best. And then I thought his performance in that Obi-Wan series was really good. So I guess that's where I live.
Yeah.
I don't love all of Star Wars, but I'm going to try and see the best in it.
I think the sort of pendulum there has swung again. It started off, when Star Wars was just 3 movies, which I loved. And there was other stuff around, video games, books, and a couple of like TV shows and movies I hadn't seen, the Ewok movies and the Christmas special, which I've only seen bits of. But ignoring that, it felt like every step, every new thing on the kind of journey was very, very important. So the prequels came along and it was like, oh my God, this is massive. And then the sequels came along and they felt the same, but they were like, I really didn't want the sequels to happen. I don't know if you guys remember. No. I remember I just started working with you both at Future when Disney bought Star Wars
Yeah.
and I did a big groan. I mean, I don't expect you to remember the groan, but just my general thought was, I don't like this. I don't want this. I don't want any more Star Wars. Like, let's just leave it where we are. And
So finely balanced.
And then the trailers for The Force Awakens came out, and it was like, oh God, I could feel myself slipping into the excitement. I'm getting excited.
It was
And then
aimed exactly at people like us, Dave, who hadn't enjoyed the prequels.
Absolutely nailed on. And, you know, there's the journey of the sequels. But now Star Wars is so big that I feel like the pendulum swung again, where there are things I absolutely love. And I mean, a lot of this is down to, you know, Rogue One and or like, I love those so much that I'm happy for them to coexist with things that I love a lot less.
Yeah.
There's enough Star Wars now that you can find stuff that you really love. It's not like every move that they make with the story is super important. I'm like, it's going to go in a lot of different directions, and some of the directions will be for me and I'll really like them, and some of them won't be for me, and it's just, that's okay.
I mean, if nothing else, it kind of proves. I feel that same when you've got something which feels perfect, and then you get something which isn't perfect. You feel it feels bad, but
Yeah.
I do. If nothing else, Andor and how much I enjoyed it is just this clear evidence that I don't have to enjoy everything in that universe to really enjoy. That could still be my favorite show of the year, which it probably was, and it is fine. There are other bits out there that I'm not enjoying as much.
Did you say you'd watched Andor, Rob?
No, I've not seen Andor. No.
I don't know whether I would recommend it to you because A, that would make no difference to you watching it, and B, I'm not sure whether you'd enjoy it or not. So,
I'm not going to watch it.
But it's that's okay. I
putting this out
wasn't worried that you might.
Just good TV.
But it's I think
TV.
it's absolutely fantastic. I'm keen to get onto this mailbag, which I've now
Let's open
built up too
Let's
much.
open the mailbag.
Can you open the bag? That is the kind of Foley that George Lucas was working with when he first started ILM. And that man was immediately fired. So we'll put in a sound there for mailbag. And we're starting with Phil Everett, who has chosen war, not Star Wars, and writes, my relationship with Star Wars is that I get more enjoyment from telling Star Wars fans that I have never seen them than I could possibly get from watching them.
That's what Rob was just doing with Andor. I'm never going to watch it.
Rob loves this. Yeah, we've talked about this before. Rob's stance on never watching Dune, he loves it. Typically, this is met with some insistence that I would love them. I completely object to anyone telling me that.
Why are you reading us this, Dave?
I would not enjoy something. This poses a nice opportunity to follow up with, I hear the latest trilogy is actually better than the OG and prequels. If I have a defense for the fact that this probably makes me a dickhead, it's that it's never done with malice, just senseless banter. I do know about Star Wars, though. Someone has the high ground. Who shot first? Jar Jar is actually a Sith Lord. Anyway, you asked me and I've outed myself on the internet. Cheers, Phil. I wrote this. I put this one in because I thought it is still fascinating to me that you can be a person in the 21st century who hasn't seen Star Wars. I feel like it's like more than a rite of passage. It's just so big that you have to actively avoid it. And I think you can only be someone like Phil who takes great pleasure. I think he nailed it, really. I get more pleasure from telling Star Wars fans I haven't seen it than I could possibly get from actually seeing it. So, thanks, Phil. They're all much nicer from here. I thought Rob would really resonate with that.
I'm not like that.
You are.
I'm not.
You're exactly like that.
No, I'm not.
I
I don't take pleasure in telling people I haven't seen them. I just haven't seen
You
Andor.
take pleasure.
I've
You've
no
loved
pleasure in
telling us that you haven't seen Dune. You've loved it.
No, I haven't.
You have. You really
I
enjoyed
hated watching Dune.
You've really enjoyed us in telling us that you were never going to watch Avengers Endgame and getting us to trying to get us to spoil it for you.
That is also
There you go. We know you more than you know yourself. Okay, so from having never seen it to seeing it back in 1977, David Levinson writes in to say, I love this one. Hey guys, I was 14 when Star Wars came out, and when I saw the ads on TV, I sneered with all the derision a gatekeepy teenage boy can muster. In particular, I remember rolling my eyes hard at the shot of Luke and Leia swinging across the shaft in the Death Star. This wasn't proper science fiction like Asimov, Clarke, Heinlein and Star Trek. But the word of mouth was good, and my father convinced me to go see it. So a few weeks before my 15th birthday, we went down to Hollywood to see it at the Chinese Theatre. That's the one with all the hand and footprints of the stars in the cement. The movie had been out for a few weeks, but the line was still around the block. Our seats were under the balcony, but not terrible. My line of sight was such that the bottom of the balcony and the top of the screen were basically at the same line. So when the Star Destroyer comes in at the beginning, it was like it was in the room, coming in from the balcony.
Man.
That was enough to pull me in. Darth Vader was truly evil, which was a breath of fresh air after years of villains just being misunderstood and needing a hug. When Han came back and knocked Vader off Luke's tail, I almost leapt out of my seat and cheered. From being so dismissive, I went hard with all the zeal of a convert. I went to JCPenney's to get a free poster signed by Darth Vader. Either the main movie poster with the triangle pose or the shot of all the ships in the dogfight above the Death Star. Both were on my bedroom walls until I went off to uni. I bought the novelization and Splinter of the Mind's Eye, the first non-canonical Star Wars novel. I still have in my nightstand drawer a button that says Darth Vader lives. And Darth Vader is spelt incorrectly there, as in that's how it is on the button,
Right.
with 2 A's. My ardour cooled over time. When Empire came out, I went to see it as early as I could, and my friends and I discussed who the other might be for a long time. But I wasn't as into it as I had been.
Oh, man.
I was still eager to see Jedi when it came out and found it flawed but enjoyable. I'm not an Ewok hater, like many on my side of the Ewok line, but neither was I fully satisfied with the ending. I went from big fan to enjoyer in a few short years. Every cent I've spent on the franchise other than movie tickets was in the first year. I introduced my kids to it before the prequels, but not as something I really loved, just something I thought they'd enjoy. They say the golden age of science fiction is 12. A lot of that probably applies to my experience with Star Wars. Hand shot first. David Levinson.
That's a great email.
Which I thought was a really amazing email. Not just the really vivid sense that he gives of actually watching it for the first time. And I think what an amazing place to have watched it
So
in Hollywood.
imagine seeing it at Grammer's Chinese Theatre.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Very cool.
With a line around the block.
I've
Still
seen
a
film.
blockbuster.
I've seen a film there.
What did you watch there?
Miss Congeniality 2.
Didn't we go there to watch like a Bethesda conference or something?
We went. We've definitely been.
It wasn't the
to-
Grammer's Chinese.
It wasn't-
I'm not
wasn't?
sure we've been to. We went
It
to
was
the
the Dolby
Dolby.
Theatre,
Oh,
which is
okay.
just around the corner where they used to hold the Oscars.
But
ceremony.
we've mentioned the Grauman's Chinese because we've talked about Star Trek. I think Wrath of Khan. Maybe it was in that episode. Like they had the premiere there, and we've talked about Star Wars and Ridley Scott seeing the line for the Star Wars premiere at Grauman's when he was staying in LA, and just thinking why he was doing a Tristan and Isolde adaptation. It was like, maybe I'll just do something in space.
Yeah.
What am I doing? Yeah, I love that, and I love, I've written a bit at the end here just to try and give a sense of what was going on at the time when the films were coming out, and you can't really get better than that sense of everything in Star Wars now is like just received knowledge to us.
Yes.
It just exists. So the idea of not knowing who
I love that.
Yoda could be talking about.
Who is the other? Like, and there was a couple
So
of
is that
years.
in Empire Strikes Back when he says there's another Skywalker?
Yeah.
And they don't actually reveal it until Return of the Jedi?
Yes.
Wow. So for 2 or 3 years, everyone was
3 years, yeah.
wondering who he was talking about.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
Which feels like a kind of.
Do you think George Lucas knew?
I'm
At that point.
I'm pretty sure
50-50.
he knew at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, that feels like something that would be quite new for movies at that time. I don't know how many kind of trilogies and films there had been with sequels with kind of not cliffhangers
Ongoing
perhaps, but
plots.
like yeah,
Quite new, yeah.
where it's such a commonplace thing now. I mean, at the moment, Stranger Things is playing, and they break it up. Rather than just giving you the box set, they break it up to encourage these conversations of I wonder what's going to happen and with this, that, and the other.
3 years is a long time though.
Yes.
Although when I was putting together that newsletter on this, and it was ahead of the first terrestrial screening of Star Wars. I think it was not on the radio times, the TV times, because it was on ITV, and it was like a full takeover. It was on the cover, and this was like 4 or 5 years, well, almost 10 years after the first film had been out.
Yeah,
But just I guess the culture just moved so much more slowly then, and Star Wars had been kept alive by the other 2 films and by the toys and books, but it hadn't. There was no internet to go to. There were no blogs. There was no YouTube to watch where people could constantly talk about it. There's no podcast. So
yeah.
it was just still huge. And I guess same thing with that conversation.
Yeah. I also just think it was fascinating, and I don't know, refreshing, good to hear about a 14-year-old rolling their eyes at the trailers and just being like, this looks rubbish. Like,
find the controls at exchange.
and then yeah, I know,
they're coming through.
and then watching it and loving it. I just thought it was really, really vivid and a fantastic email. But also, that journey, not liking Empire as much, and then kind of being done by.
I'm also glad that we can, because
Jedi.
again, I was basically, by the time I was watching Star Wars, all of the movies were out, and I was in my head they were all as good as each other. But clearly, if you watch Return of the Jedi, some of it's shit.
Yes.
I'm just putting that out there ahead of us watching the films.
Yeah, that's something I think I came to terms with in the recent years, that there are
variances.
Return of the Jedi, I'm pretty sure, was the first Star Wars I watched. I don't know why. My dad chose to show me them in reverse order, but and I always thought it was amazing. Probably as a kid, it was my favorite one because it's they're all made for kids.
Yeah,
but it's the most.
It's got Muppets.
It's got little teddy bears, and
it's crazy.
You know,
I think the first time I realised this was when I was watching Spaced. Have you guys seen Spaced? And Bill Bailey has a comic shop, and they're arguing about Star Wars and about the prequels specifically. And Bill Bailey's point is that some of the old films were bad as well. He says the Ewoks are rubbish.
Yeah,
and Tim says Jar Jar Binks makes the Ewoks look like fucking Shaft, which is very true.
Yeah, I think there is something in that. Okay, next up we've got an email from Fitzhickey, who says, as someone born in the very late 1990s, show off, my introduction to Star Wars will likely appall you all. It wasn't until after Revenge of the Sith that I became aware of there even being other older Star Wars films.
Jesus Christ.
I don't think I'd ever frustrated my mum as much as I did with my simple inability to wrap my head around episode 4 being the first one, but set after episodes 1 to 3. In my defense, I was 6 years old, but nonetheless. Due to the unfortunate timing of my birth, my Star Wars fandom, there goes that word again, begins with an adoration for Qui-Gon Jinn, animated Yoda, potentially problematic caricatures in the Trade Federation and Watto, and the droids. I loved clones and their Kiwi accents, seeing Saruman with a haircut and beard trim, and Ewan McGregor ride a giant lizard. I will even be tempted to throw out a genuine ardent defence of episode 3 after a beer or two. Ooh. There are very fond memories of sitting down with my younger brother to watch our VHS copies of the prequels, accompanied by snide, back-in-my-day-esque parental commentary. There's an undeniable magic to Star Wars as a universe, a novel observation, even if I don't like the majority of what has been made within it, much like Alien. But the highs of the good are unbelievable, Andor might be the best of it all. I'm really looking forward to the series, especially as it will give Dave some airtime to once and for all lock down the title of biggest Star Wars fan.
Bullshit.
Similarly excited for the Lord of the Rings watch listen-alongs. Keep up the good work on all various mediums. Cheers, Fizz. P.S. Will you ever touch Akira Kurosawa's body of work? I just picked up a couple of physical copies of his films at the local shop and was reminded of his utter brilliance. I think there's enough variation to do a series there.
Bit of a niche one, that. Akira Kurosawa.
Yeah.
Some great stuff and very relevant for Star Wars. Lots of this couple in particular.
100%. And good
Hidden
to be reminded that some people came to Star Wars via the prequels.
Yeah.
Because it's just hard for me.
Fault.
It's just hard for me to understand that.
It's not their fault.
I get it. But to have seen the prequels and not know there was more Star Wars, I don't know if that was super... Fitz doesn't make it clear if that was super exciting. Like, oh my God, there's more. Or
just be weird. There's more.
And then they're old. They look older. And you already know that Luke is Darth Vader's son.
Yeah, what's the point in that?
I do like the prequels. They live in just a fun space now. I think there's they are loved, not in the same way that the original trilogy is, but there's certainly like a love for them in the Star Wars fandom, I feel. Jar Jar Binks is one of the, we laugh about him being shit, but I think Jar Jar Binks now that he is a product of cinema history. How old? You're trying to
do a bit. Are you trying to get us annoyed?
No,
Is that what you're trying
I
to
think
do?
Jar Jar Binks is like
It's what? An iconic.
Fucking say it.
He's an iconic character.
What?
An iconic character.
He is an iconic.
What does
Jar Jar
iconic
Binks
mean?
is like,
yes,
he's so
he stands
famous
alone.
and how can you not find him
like Hitler's an iconic character?
Yeah, He's out there.
What? Hitler's a war criminal, like an evil man.
Do you not see
in
how
history.
many people Jar Jar Binks? Well, I mean, they were mostly robots, to be fair, but Jar Jar Binks killed, and he voted for the Empire.
He condemn the Republic.
Yeah.
Fucking dickhead.
No, don't sit there and try and poke us into. I agree.
I'm not trying to poke you.
Do you know, in general, I agree. Like the prequel, I've had to accommodate myself to the fact that there's a generation of people who have a real love for it, and
Yes.
I don't want to like try and sour that at all.
No.
And I was going through, I was like doing loads of work in my house, and found a bunch of cinema tickets that I like haven't stashed away in my box yet, and I was like, oh, it's from last year, and I forgot that I'd actually seen last year on, I guess it was 25th anniversary. I'd seen Phantom Menace just last May, which isn't that long ago, really. And I would like it was the week before I saw Civil War, for instance, like
Right.
which I remember very well.
Yes.
And I had weirdly no memory of watching Phantom Menace, but then I did remember. I went into it genuinely thinking enough time has passed that I can just watch this, enjoy it for the things that are enjoyable, and ignore everything else. And Jar Jar Binks is like, he's really bad. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to swear or like be performative here. He's really unwatchably bad.
Wow.
And I didn't have a good
He's
time.
being constrained, very contained there.
That's all I've got. But in general, I agree about the prequels. But I really struggle with Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
Is there nothing in the... He's fun to hate, isn't he? He's fun to not like Jar Jar
You're not
Binks.
supposed to hate
And
him,
it's
though.
fun to come up with those fan theories. That
Yeah, the
comic
fan
book
theory.
strip of George R. Binks shooting himself in the head because he hates Jar Jar so much.
Oh, that's canon. That's not a
I know.
fan. Okay, right,
and
good.
that is, it's so...
fucked up.
We've all
It's what it
taken a
is.
lot of enjoyment from that.
Yes.
that
what
is
I'm
true.
maybe trying to get at is Jar Jar Binks has brought enjoyment to people, whether or not you think he's good as a character in a film.
He's a banter figure.
To a degree that I'm not sure anything in the sequels will ever attain, even 30 years
Maybe.
removed onwards. What is in the sequels that
he's
people are
the-
going to be
he's-
looking back on in 30 years' time and be
Just
like,
memes. He's the equivalent of somehow something returned, which we said in like a weekly basis on our Slack. You know, an edit has returned.
Yeah.
Somehow this request from this client has returned.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh God.
They,
Maybe I hate Star Wars.
the prequels. Yeah, the prequels aren't for me, but I do. The Phantom Menace does have a sort of a warm place in my heart. The Clone Wars or Attack of the Clones
That I've not seen for a long.
is oh my god, Nath, that is it's
A
what
long
it's
time.
you know, like even in a bad movie like the Phantom Menace, I can sit there and be disliking wherever we are, but think, oh yeah, but the pod race is good.
Pod race is great.
And the pod race is
The
good.
duel at the end is amazing.
I love the
Right,
The
and
Tyson
so
fight.
in Attack of the Clones,
just don't
there is
remember
no
much.
bit. There is no.
There
I'm
is
sat
no-
there thinking,
there
oh
is no
god, the
bit.
next bit's this. Oh god, the next bit's this.
At least I can't really remember what the next.
It's
bit
gonna
is.
be
What about the bit where Yoda fights
Captain
Captain Dooku?
God, it's so
Count Dooku,
terrible.
sorry, not Captain Dooku.
Do you know? I just remembered again. It's going to be so hard, man. Because I really want to like our whole mission through the prequel trilogy should be let's love these movies as much as we can. Like that's the only way I think we're going to get through 3
I
weeks.
can't
of it.
do Attack of the Clones. I'll do the other two. I'll love
Oh,
as
that
best
bit.
I can.
I remember being in the cinema for it. I think it was in Attack of the Clones, where Hayden Christensen just says to Natalie Portman something like, "I'm just so in love with you," and there was just just laughter erupted through the cinema. And even as a child, I was like, "That was bad, wasn't it?"
Well, we should have a whole format for those where we just only say good things, which is why we should get out the things we hate right now. Do you remember the bit
Yes.
in the Phantom Menace where they just run really fast?
Yeah,
And you
the
just
only
never-
time that force power's ever seen.
they just go super.
When did they do
nine-
that?
It's so rubbish.
Right at the start,
beginning.
they're like
On the
they're
Trade
like the
Federation
destroyers, and they just run away.
I don't remember that
It's
at
like
all.
it's like quite
It's-
zoomed out, and they
it's-
just move really quickly.
Yeah.
It's fucking rubbish.
It's
Wow.
like they had
There's so much good stuff in that opening sequence. There.
What do you mean by good stuff?
Like
The
they've got
racism.
up the ventilation shaft. That bit.
Literally, I think
I think that's the bit.
I've always known if I was going to like a Star Wars movie or not based entirely on the crawl, and I can only really remember,
Oh man.
you know, the sequels, especially. But
everyone pretends that this crawl's bad.
Rob,
Everyone's like,
Phantom
remember
Menace
the-
crawl is unbelievable.
Every crawl since the Phantom Menace has been like an over-egged attempt to retcon. Like I saw the crawl for episode 9 recently, and it's like got things in capitals like revenge.
Yeah, that's one of
and
the worst movies.
war and rebellion.
Well,
Exciting, yeah.
well,
They're trying to-
it is. But the thing is, if it's a
blockade.
movies for kids. This is about trade federation. Are you looking it up, Nate?
I was going to look up the I mean, I remember it.
It's like
I was so excited, and I was a little bit older than you, and I truly loved Star Wars. I was like a young adult going into this to be like, this is going to be a meaningful experience in my life, and the cruel was, when you just want to ignore the first few signs that a situation is way worse than you think it is, and you're like, that could be fine.
Yeah,
it could be fine.
There's some great, there's a lot of hate on the internet for these movies, and you can find, and I think it's at Red Letter Media. They've done some videos I've enjoyed watching, and one of the things just sticks in my mind is they did was they took a stock image of some children lying on their lounge looking up at a television, and in the screen they put the crawl for this movie, and it is hilarious when you think of like 9-year-old kids reading.
Here it is. Turmoil has engulfed the Galactic Republic.
Okay, a lot of big words, but I like it.
The taxation of trade routes to outlying star systems is in dispute. Hoping to resolve the matter with a blockade of deadly battleships.
Okay, I'm back in.
The greedy Trade Federation has stopped all shipping to the small planet of Naboo, while the Congress of the Republic endlessly debates this alarming chain of events. The Supreme Chancellor has secretly dispatched 2 Jedi Knights to settle the
Good.
Do you want to know what the truth is?
Okay.
The truth
That's what we're here
is,
for.
We've got it.
the truth is, the cruel, all of them are shit. They look shit. The whole concept.
They look
of,
shit.
The whole concept of the cruel. I've never seen it in any other film, and it looks fucking weird and shit. That weird little angle. And when you get to the bit at the end of the cruel, where the first bit of the cruel is like really far away, I'm like, this looks fucking awful. The Star Wars cruels are shit.
Well, do you know?
The movies would be better if they was just completely taken out.
I'm glad
Have the big yellow Star Wars thing, bah, and then just go into the film.
I'm glad you said that, because only in as much as I wanted to point out that in that very first paragraph, and it wasn't very clear from me reading it, that he planned the cruel, and he drew an example of the cruel on that very first script, that first draft, and I that was really interesting to me, that it was always something he had seen in his head for this movie, like right from the start.
Where's he seen it from?
I'm
Is
not
it
sure,
just
but
an original idea?
No, I'm sure he's borrowed it from somewhere.
I assume it's Saturday morning, like, what's it? Serial, like B movie
Why does
kind
it
of
go
vibe.
like that? Why doesn't it come from the bottom of the screen up?
So that's from Flash Gordon from the 40s or 50s.
And that's why, because I don't know if Nathan's going to mention this, but George Lucas loved Flash Gordon, and he really wanted to make a Flash Gordon movie. But he couldn't. Why couldn't he, Dave? Because no one wanted.
Because the rights had already been bought.
Oh, okay.
By visionary filmmaker Dino De Laurentiis.
Oh, of course, that's right.
De Laurentiis
so Dino, we have Dino to thank for.
He's actually ahead of the fucking
Star
game.
Wars.
Imagine that. We've talked about Dino De Laurentiis is like
way more than you'd think we should have.
He's trying to get Dune together. It doesn't work. Then Alien happens, and he's like, okay, well, Star Wars is good. Alien was good. I'm going to try Dune. Dune is fucking terrible. It falls to absolute pieces. The whole Silence of the Lambs thing. He's made that Lecter movie. It's done nothing. Silence of the Lambs happened, and then he makes like 3 movies, and they're all dog shit. I just love it. He can't catch a break.
Yeah.
And I tried to watch. I remember his Flash Gordon movie in my head is like, it's up there with Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. I used to love both of those films.
Yeah.
I tried to watch Flash Gordon about 3 weeks ago, and I could only get halfway through. That film is a big piece of shit.
Wow. Yeah.
It's a big piece of
So
shit.
I think I told you that it was fairly recently in my life that I discovered Flash Gordon and The Flash are 2 different things.
He's not moving quickly at all.
I've never seen Flash Gordon.
Just do the thing, Flash Gordon. Just go fast.
Well, it's Brian Blessed's in one, right? And he says Flash Gordon's alive.
Gordon's alive.
Live. Yeah.
He does, yeah. He's
Absolutely.
Voltan.
And there's that song,
Flash.
Yeah.
That's Flash Gordon, right?
Yes.
Not The Flash.
No, that's Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
I know very little about the Flash. I mean, I know very little about Flash Gordon, but even less about the Flash. But
It's Queen. Queen did that
Yeah.
song. And they also did all the soundtrack for Highlander. Maybe we should do them as a double bill next. The Queen double bill.
Anyway, we'll have lots of time to talk about the cruel with all the different crawls we're going to see over the next few weeks. But I, for one, love it as an idea. Although it's actually preceded by something I love even more, A Long Time Ago in a Galaxy Far, Far Away.
That's good.
Oh, okay.
Keep that bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Was that the truth? You teed up something by saying, "Do you want the truth?"
That was it.
The truth is, everyone argues about the wording of the crawl, and really, the look and the whole concept of the crawl, I think, is shit.
Okay. That's the truth, everybody.
That is the truth.
Let's go back to our mailbag. And Nathan Ryder, who writes, like you, I grew up on 80s movies. Star Wars was just part of my identity as a child. Playground games, Kenner action figures that only vaguely look like the characters in movies recorded off TV. I remember being 4 or 5 years old and watching Return of the Jedi for the first time one Christmas on our tiny living room TV and crying my eyes out when Darth Vader dies, which I really enjoyed. Although it's a really moving scene.
I read this email and I got to that point and I was like, that's weird. But then I was like, yeah, he's taking his mask off and he's all sad.
Yeah, he's
like, if I take the mask off, you'll die.
Yeah.
Nothing can prevent it, no.
He's a dad then. He's Luke's dad again. And he's English. He's been saved.
That's the other thing. Underneath the mask, he's English.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
He looks like Humpty Dumpty.
He does look a bit like Humpty Dumpty.
Yeah. Nathan goes on to say, as enjoyable as The Mandalorian and other Disney Plus live action shows have been, I feel that the best Star Wars of the last decade, I think maybe even more than that, has actually been the various animated series. Clone Wars, Rebels, The Bad Batch and other smaller projects, Tales of the Jedi, Empire and Visions have all been really strong and in some cases allowed explorations into other parts of the Star Wars universe that haven't simply been a tangent or a side story of the Skywalker saga. And I guess I was interested in reading that out, Nath, because I know that you have decided that you hate the animated
that's why I booed,
Star Wars media, and I don't know why that is.
Not the very first one, the
Tartakovsky
one.
Why did you decide that you hate them all? Have you seen any of them?
No, because oh no, I'm in an alliance with Rob.
I think Rob is the sort of person who would give these a go and
I
not
have
judge
only
them.
seen one Star Wars animation and I really like it.
Right.
That's where I am on
I'm not
Star
sure
Wars
you
animation.
should judge the others based on that, but yes.
I think I resent them because during a period of time where I was very keen for there to be very good Star Wars movies, there was nothing. And
a big problem with
TV shows, which I thought were for a younger audience.
I guess, certainly I didn't ever watch the Clone Wars because I didn't like the prequels, and it was like, well, I don't like this bit of Star Wars. I'm not interested.
I think
in
that's
this
probably what happened to me.
Bullshit war or whatever. Since then, I've watched other things. Like I've gone back and watched some of the Clone Wars, which I've still yet to get into.
Is it all
really.
supposed to take place in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah. But I've seen lots of Rebels. Actually, haven't finished Rebels, but I've really enjoyed it. I've seen a good amount of The Bad Batch, which I've really enjoyed. I think that there's some really good stuff there. I don't know what I'm trying to say, really. I think this is that thing of, I was saying at the start, there's now so much Star Wars that I think it's nice that you can just dip into things if you want and give it a go and see. It is interesting to me that they often get to explore, and this is what I'm interested in with Star Wars, I think, is exploring stuff away from the Skywalker saga, away from those just five
You are right, though.
I
think that in the first movie, when he mentions the Clone Wars, and this is someone who just made THX 1138 and was steeped in science fiction of the 50s and 60s. He was talking. I mean, he still is talking about clones, but the idea is just this exciting dystopic. What the hell was that? Of course, the Jedi had to step in and clones. Wow, interesting. And then the version of it that we got set up by the prequel trilogy was so bland and confusing and disinteresting that I obviously didn't want to go into that anymore. But also, I don't want to, because I know that people really enjoy it, and I kind of feel the same about the some of the stuff which is going on now with Star Wars, which is the people who were in charge of that. How they were doing great work, telling really interesting stories, and it's kind of frustrating that isn't the kind of what am I saying, the flagship of Star Wars storytelling at that time. That for whatever reason organization behind it, all the deals weren't in place or whatever it was, but the whole enterprise of Star Wars had not got its shit together to make it so that the people who wanted to do the most interesting work were having the biggest budgets and the biggest, highest platform.
Yeah.
They were doing it on this show, which was for this like more limited audience and in a format which I don't really want to watch. And it's probably talks to my snobbishness as well. I really like Andor because it talks to me like an adult, and and I want to feel clever. So that's what I do.
Yes, definitely the animated series are aimed at children, and you do have to. I think that they evolve often throughout the series and tend to maybe kind of grow up with their audience a little bit, but certainly...
That's smart, right? Because there's now this fucking army of Star Wars fans who grow up on that stuff. So
100%. We're going to do one last mail and then hear from Nath about the kind of origins of Star Wars. So finally, from Emilius in Toronto, who says, happy Star Wars season, very excited for the coming series and the holiday cheer it's sure to bring to all of us. I've always been more of a Star Trek fan, though I'd have to admit that Star Wars was a bit cooler. I'm very close to Nath's age and can still fondly remember seeing Return of the Jedi at the drive-in with my folks back in 1983. I'd love to have seen a movie in a drive-in, for real. That would have been cool. I watched the original trilogy a zillion times on VHS tapes with bits of commercials my parents hadn't managed to cut out. I memorised every line and consumed anything else related to Star Wars, hoping George Lucas would make another movie. Fast forward several decades to now, where, like most of us, feeling a tad overwhelmed by all the Star Wars stuff out there. As cool as Star Wars was, my fondest memory has to be the cereal. The official cereal was called C-3POs. And the really annoying
Is that instead
thing,
of Cheerios? C-3POs.
It's C-3POs, but they've put an apostrophe, like they belong to C-3PO, which is okay, I guess, but they're Kellogg's as well, which also has an apostrophe. So it's Kellogg's C-3PO. It's Kellogg's C-3POs. It's like, what? It's like Kellogg's C-3POs.
Who owns this cereal?
What is it called?
What's
and who
going on?
It was a pretty awful sweet corn cereal that was only out for a short time in the 80s, but to my 6-year-old brain, it was manna from heaven. And I could even make a Luke Skywalker mask out of a cutout in the back of the box. Why not a C-3PO mask? I'd be furious if I was Anthony Daniels.
Well, they're smart, aren't they?
And in that enormous George Lucas movie drought between Return of the Jedi and Phantom Menace, a full 16 years, what I tend to forget is that it actually wasn't much of a drought at all. There was the cereal, and there were comics, 2 Ewok movies, a couple of cartoons, Droids and Ewoks, all the toys, a crazy convoluted series of novels, and there were all the games. Some were awful, though I still watched, read, and played almost all of it. Over the years, on Access and here on RSCC, I think I've heard some of your opinions on the movies and what Disney's purchase of Star Wars has wrought on us. I very much agree that it's okay to be a fan but dislike or even hate some of it, and that it should not make us dislike what we do enjoy any less. And, most importantly, if you love something I don't like as much, or vice versa, it doesn't make either of us any less of a fan. That being said, my 2 daughters are enormous fans of Baby Yoda and will probably see the Mandalorian movie opening night. If Disney made a Baby Yoda cereal, I'd definitely buy at least 1 box for them to eat on Saturday morning, and I would eat half of it. As I said, looking very forward to the coming series, especially the Ewok movies, and I hope you and all your families have a wonderful holiday season ahead. That's Emilius in Toronto.
That's great.
It is great. And I really want to try that cereal.
C-3POs.
Yeah, C-3POs.
Yeah, like
I like that it
C-3POs.
didn't last very long. I feel like there's a story, like a Sunny Delight kind of, kids were turning yellow. And
Oh man, Sunny Delight. What a time.
Yeah.
Sunny
oh man,
D.
Sunny D. Oh,
Orange
right.
kids.
God, it was so good.
I used
Yeah.
to drink so much of it. I wonder what they've put inside us, Rob. We'll get activated at some point. We'll just start marching somewhere and we don't know what's going on.
I thought Emilius really nailed the whole thing we try and tell ourselves again and again and again about fandom.
Yeah,
about
definitely.
This is maybe the ultimate example of let's all just like the bits we like and let everybody else like the bits they like, and let's all just be happy.
It's the acid test, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so interesting kind of tracking what happened between kind of 83 and 99 as well, in terms of like, yes, there was nothing, but also there was there were things to be getting on with. And I guess through the 90s, the big thing for me was X-Wing and TIE Fighter, really. It's just such a good game. And I played a few other bits and pieces. Like there's X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, which weirdly I didn't like as much. And Dark Forces was a pretty big game for me, but like nothing like the immersion of being. Some of the missions were really boring. Some of them, like you just escorting something, but that you'd be in a formation and you'd be moving. Like all the ships were things you recognised from the movies, and it just put you into the world. And so, like, you just realised that so much of being in that, of course, being part of the Empire, you just be doing normal, boring military stuff, just all the time.
My version of that was X-Wing Alliance, which I think was maybe the one after TIE Fighter and X-Wing, and X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, and you start out there as like a cargo ship owner, and the first few missions are just moving cargo, and you're not in the Empire or the Rebellion. You're just doing that, and you sort of spotting weird things that are happening around, and maybe you get like a not attacked but like inspected by an Imperial patrol at one point, and things go awry. I think about that game often. It was so well done. They, as you said, just nailed the fiction of being part of that universe, which I think is what I'm always looking for from these new things. Like less interested in the Jedi. I mean, I'm so disinterested in the Jedi now, to be honest with you, and those particular characters that we've done to death. But I think the universe is amazing and fascinating, and I love when we get to explore that and just see how different people live in it.
I think it's that classic thing of this would have been a good game, and then when you put it together with an imaginative world, it like just becomes something greater than the sum of its parts. Yeah. This thing I always remember is, you probably had the same on Alliance, was knowing the shortcut keys on my keyboard to do, push my deflector shields forward or reroute energy to like switch between ion cannons and lasers or whatever it was. And that more than anything, like you didn't have an overlay, just knew, and almost every key on the keyboard did something. And then you obviously had a joystick next to it, and it felt like being in control of a ship in this fucking cool as fuck way. I just loved it so much. Just remembering things like you'd be halfway through a mission and you'd realize that one of the things you need to inspect has gone to the edge of the playing area, and is your ship quick? I just remember like coming up to the F keys to go get rid of all the shields, everything onto the engines. Can I get there quick enough? Just that sense of space that each one of those engagement areas would have. I copied a version of it from my friend, I think, and it had in the manual, it had like the copy protection was, I think it was a scene of like Admiral Thrawn, and he was like basically asking you for a keyword. And
yes.
It's like, and
I forgot games used to do this.
I think there were 38 or 32 or something, and I knew them all. So he would ask for one, and I'd be like, imperative.
I am the copy protection.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, that's cool. Such happy memories. Yeah, you. I think thinking about it, it's so right about how it translated the thing that's in the movies is in those games is like having this your thing, this ship that is yours, and knowing it so well that you're doing things without even thinking about it, and it translating that to the keyboard where you're doing these kind of weird functions that don't exist in the real world, like transferring shield energy to your engines to go faster.
Yeah.
And obviously that comes all the way back to George Lucas having his cars and tinkering with them and racing with them and wanting that to be in the movies, things like the pod race. I think the pod race is a great example of it, where Anakin is, the pod's damaged and he's having to reroute the power and stuff. It's like that is exactly what I loved about those games, like that sense that I was actually doing it.
I was in the middle of a battle, and like my skill in running that ship would actually help me as much as flying and shooting.
Yeah, exactly. So cool. Well, the mailbag is closed.
Oh, the mailbag's over.
But hopefully you have some a little bit of context to give us before we get into the very first episode. Well, episode 4.
a little bit harkening back to our Star Trek days. A mini intro for Star Wars, which was released on the 25th of May, 1977, which is 4 years exactly before my birthday.
Yes,
so
before you were born.
Very annoying.
Yes. Do you know who else was born on the 25th of May?
Is it Freddie
Mark
Mercury?
Hamill.
No, 2 people, and you'll immediately go, these people, of course, they're in Nathan's orbit, of course. Johnny Wilkinson.
Oh, yeah, I did know that as well, yeah.
And Sergeant Slammer from WWF.
Right, okay.
So That's the three of us get together sometimes.
Right, yeah.
So George Lucas, and again, going back to what I mentioned earlier on about this group of, we often think of Lucas and Spielberg as the kind of originators of a very popular commercial kind of blockbuster in filmmaking, but George Lucas started as somebody much more, his great filmmaking partner and mentor in the early days was Francis Ford Coppola. So he had much more of a sort of a artistic anti-Hollywood stance, and their whole plan was to create a filmmaking hub. Coppola's probably like more on the sort of ambitious domineering side of it, away from Hollywood in San Francisco, which was a much cooler city. And they made a company called American Zoetrope. And Zoetrope is, I don't know if you know, Rob, but like when there's a spinning, it looks like a lampshade with slits in it, and there are pictures on the inside, and the slits mean that you only see it, like breaks it up like a frame. So it's like a kind of a film, but in a single object.
I have seen them.
That was the name of their company, which they made in the late 60s. And Lucas was still at college around this time. I think they were all, them and a group of people who went through and then would collaborate all through the 80s and 90s. We're all kind of working together on different projects. And Lucas had a student film, had a longer title, but it became THX 1138, which is his first film, kind of a very dystopic science fiction movie about a future where emotions are controlled by chemistry, by drugs, and it has a chase sequence through unfinished transit tunnels in San Francisco, which you can imagine I like a great deal. And it wasn't particularly successful. It's very downbeat, very quiet, but a lot of the reviews talked about how he had an eye for kind of visual imagination, and he might do something in his future career. So that was a Warner Brothers co-production with American Zoetrope, and Walter Murch, who would become the inventor basically of surround sound cinema, and one of the kind of most lauded editors and sound designers in Hollywood in the 70s onwards, collaborated with Lucas on it directly with Francis Ford Coppola. In his review, Roger Ebert, friend of the pod, likened it to 2001, Silent Running, and the Andromeda Strain. So again, just trying to set the scene of what kind of science fiction, and actually one of your emails that you read, Dave, did it as well. We're used to a lot more realistic, grounded science fiction at this point. That was what was going on. And then kind of the other side of Lucas came through in his next film, which was released in August 1973, which, as you've also mentioned, was American Graffiti, which is funny to me. I guess one of the things I was thinking about this time when I was writing down these dates is that it's about 1950s culture and racing, but that was only 10 or 15 years old. So it's kind of like somebody making a film about, I don't know, the noughties, about 2010, about the Olympics in Britain, but it felt like a different time.
Yeah, I can get it. I feel like in the early noughties, people had nostalgia for the 80s. There was a lot of like 80s.
It's true.
I guess it's a bit like that. I can kind of see
people wearing designer denim and pedal pushers. That's what happened in the noughties, I think. And I also think maybe it's a sign of how quickly post-war culture was moving everywhere in the West, but especially in the States. But when we talk about, you've already mentioned it, Dave, but that how the fixation or the interest in racing and cars and going fast like finds its way into Star Wars. It's really like the text rather than the subtext of American Graffiti, which is about cruising culture and making your car look very nice and riding around town, and just that kind of I think we talked about in our Back to the Future series, we talked about this generation of filmmakers having a really specific nostalgia for the 1950s and that optimistic culture, which is very based around the motor vehicle. And American Graffiti was a huge success because of that. So I think it was made for less than $1 million, and it made 140, which was enormous at that time.
I read that it was the studio hated it, and they were going to put it straight to like TV or whatever.
Yeah, it was. I don't think it was always going to be a theatrical release. And one of the things actually during its production, The Godfather had just been released, and Coppola was also working with Lucas on this, and the studio agreed to release another $140,000 of budget, which is probably about a quarter of the whole budget, maybe a third, if Coppola would put his name as an executive producer, so they could say brought to you by the executive producer of The Godfather. So very much unproven. They didn't really know what they had.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things which always strikes me about Lucas is it's inarguable. Like you said, he's not much of a writer, and he's like this shy person in a lot of ways. And but he more than once has just absolutely put his finger on some like pulse of popular culture.
It was also, I mean, you kind of said it, but just to sort of make a point of it, like to that success, I think it was the most commercially successful, or like I guess the profit margin was the biggest until the Blair Witch Project.
Right.
Like it was just, like
Multiples.
you said, it cost so little and made so much money. And for that time period, it just felt like that felt important. I think
people have gone back and watched it more since Star Wars became huge. I think so. I think it made a lot of money up front, but then yes, I think it's become. It's like when you have a YouTube hit and then the previous video also does quite well.
Yes.
He almost directed Apocalypse Now, which I always thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
He worked on it for several years with John Milius, the script writer, in between these kind of before Star Wars and after THX, and they couldn't quite get it right. And I think he still thought he would be the director up until Star Wars happened and Coppola had gone and taken it on his own. And I think that was the beginning of them not working together so well. And I think in a way also that there was a little bit of ill feeling about that. And then complications because Coppola had won these Oscars and had this enormous early success. And then suddenly the kind of more junior partner in their filmmaking friendship directed the biggest film of all time. It's definitely not as good as The Godfather. But is it? And I don't know. I think it's, it becomes a complicated relationship at that point. But just kind of crazy to think of, your next movie could have been Apocalypse Now or Star Wars. And I feel like that shows, I can't encourage people enough to go out and read Blockbuster by Thomas Shawn, but shows where this group of people was and the things which could come out of this group of filmmakers and the different directions that American film could have moved in at this point.
It seems like this is just a bit of an aside really quickly, but like filmmaking at that time was so exciting, and it just felt, I've read so many stories like reading about Zemeckis and stuff making Back to the Future before that, to getting into the industry, Steven Spielberg getting into the industry. It felt like if you just really wanted to, you just go and hang around the lots enough and people eventually just get in somehow. And, it seems like that's just, it feels like that's something like that is impossible now. I don't know. But I read that George Lucas won a competition with his like student film, I think with THX before it became the theatrical version, the original student version. He won a competition. I think it was with Warner Brothers. And the prize was he got to 6 months of access to the lot, and he could go and spend his time on whatever shoot he wanted. And he spent the whole 6 months with Coppola, which is how they met and became friends originally. But like, I just thought, well, that is the most unbelievable prize. I'd give my left arm to be able to just have, well done, come and spend 6 months here and just attach yourself to any shoots you want. Just see what's going on, see how it's done, make some friends.
So funny that both THX and Dark Star were student films as well. Like obviously a real route into the industry. And yes, it was also around this time that he first considered the idea of Star Wars. As you said, Dave, he was writing treatments for it and it was kind of on his mind without necessarily being firmed up into any specific shape. He knew the kind of film he wanted to make, and he tried to buy the rights to Flash Gordon, as we've already talked about, but Dino De Laurentiis already had them and would make his Flash Gordon. I think once Star Wars became a hit, he was like, okay, it's time for Flash Gordon. He shopped it to all the studios. This is one of the obviously, like, just like everyone turned the Beatles down, everyone turned Harry Potter down, everyone turned Star Wars down, except for Alan Ladd Jr. at Fox. And Alan Ladd Jr. at Fox also then greenlit Alien a few years later. So has already popped up in our... Or did he make it as his own, the Ladd Company? Maybe it was already separate by then anyway, but he's on the credits for Alien. American Graffiti opened in the middle of negotiations. So they were already going to make the film. They had I think they had an agreement in principle and then a few things they were going to decide later. And in that period of time, American Graffiti came out and it made it much easier for Lucas to hold on to sequel and merchandising rights, which obviously became the foundation of his empire. That
actually... I read some interesting things about this, just like the no one knew what any of this. It's hard to imagine, but no one knew what he was talking about. Like, what is the Death Star? How big is it? How much will it cost us to film it? Like, it was impossible to budget because no one knew about anything he was talking about with the things in these movies, what they would look like. And I think that was a big problem in getting the film bought or made, and that's why he ended up getting concept art made, which helped a lot, and also that because the negotiations were taking so long, he just kind of started moving ahead. He'd made loads of money from American Graffiti, so he put together ILM, and so he had the scripts, he had I think they were casting, he had the cast, but he had ILM, which were already making stuff, and it made his position really strong when I think they actually didn't agree to fund the movie until a week before principal shooting started, and he wouldn't let go of the rights to the thing, and they knew they had no sort of position because he owned everything. So he owned ILM, he owned the scripts, he owned all the designs. So it would be so easy now that he had this hit with American Graffiti as well if they said no, for him to go with somewhere else. So they said yes, and he ended up with the rights to all the ancillary rights, like the merchandising and obviously the sequels. And
do you know one of the things which really struck me reading a documentary, a biography last year of Lucas? I used to go to the library every lunchtime and just read a chapter, and it was how if you go back to that gap between films in the 80s, and it's partly because he'd made Star Wars and then Indiana Jones, and he was exhausted and I think depressed, but it's also because he had. One of the things which is really striking is that and I guess in the way that he spoke about with Coppola, he isn't just having a hit and then everything's great and he's building a studio. He makes and holds on to the means to make his films, like you said, as he's making them. So and that almost all of his money he made 2 or 3 of the biggest movies of all time in a row, and still at every phase almost ran out of money because he was ploughing it into these huge studios, which eventually came to ILM really shaped how Hollywood movies would look for 20 years. And you've seen the documentary on Disney Plus and all of the things which come off like Pixar, or just stuff like Photoshop, like that, again, like right at the heart of how all visuals are made in every creative industry in the world. Comes from Lucas being determined to hold on to and build the structures around the films that he's making, which I don't think many filmmakers would do. And I think maybe he wasn't like the most creative or just like a pure filmmaker. And yes, the prequels are shit, but at the same time, like I don't know, you kind of go like, yeah, but he reinvented Hollywood like quietly on the side.
And Jar Jar Binks is iconic.
He's a cunt. Alan Ladd Jr. said yes. Oh, I just wanted to say that Chewbacca, did you know this, Dave, was kind of based on Lucas's Alaskan Malamute dog, who's called Indiana.
Oh, no way.
Which I really like, because obviously that becomes a reverse joke.
Yes.
In the third Indiana Jones.
Named after the dog.
Lucas described the film as Buck Rogers crossed with Captain Blood and Seahawk, which are both Errol Flynn blockbusters, and Alan Ladd Jr., whose dad had been around during that time and had made some of those movies, grown up with people who were in those films and just maybe got it in a way that other studio execs didn't. So that's how the film came to be greenlit. To give a sense of how new Star Wars was and how different it felt, very short list of science fiction films made in the 70s before Star Wars. And we've covered a lot of this because of our Star Trek pods, if you go back to those. But 69 and then, 68, but then sequels all through this period. Planet of the Apes, like Beneath Planet of the Apes, Conquest of Planet of the Apes, Battle for the Planet of the Apes. But then like just stuff which seems like it belongs to the 60s or even earlier, when dinosaurs ruled the earth. The Andromeda Strain, already mentioned, The Omega Man, Silent Running, Soylent Green, Westworld, which obviously we've seen, Dark Star, which we've seen, The Land That Time Forgot, again, very sort of 50s vibes. Rollerball, either dystopian things. Stepford Wives, Logan's Run, extremely dystopian. And The Man Who Fell to Earth, which was just sort of philosophical and strange. So the idea of, he talked a lot about fairy tales and wanting to bring something sort of pure and about good and evil into the public consciousness. And, that's what sets Star Wars apart.
Yes. So there you go. We're up to speed. There's nothing to stop us now from starting on our journey with Star Wars. Some ups and some downs and some mediums, perhaps. But we'll do our best to stay positive throughout. And Rob, I think you're pretty positive about the prequels anyway, so you'll be the guiding light there.
Yeah, I like the prequels.
There you go. So if you're looking for that kind of energy from the Star Wars podcast... I
can't wait to do my impressions of that general, that Gungan general.
Oh, that's going to be good. That's worth waiting until after Christmas.
Weirdly, I can hear Rob's impression in my head rather than the actual original Gungan general that he's based on.
Direct link to Flash Gordon right there. It's Brian Blessed.
Brian Blessed
of course.
Boss Nass.
Of course, yeah. Very good point.
Wow.
So yes, we will be coming back to you on Monday with the first episode 4, Star Wars: A New Hope. If you haven't seen it before, I hope that the listener in our mailbag. This is the time. I think it was Phil.
Don't engage.
This is the time, Phil.
Don't engage that.
Come
person.
on, come with us. You're going to love it.
Just email back going,
no, didn't watch it.
No.
And if you've watched them before, as I'm sure many of you have, I hope you'll still join in and revisit them. They're Christmassy to me, I think. Maybe not as Christmassy as Lord of the Rings, but it's still something I'm looking forward to getting my teeth into. So that's coming up on Monday. We will see you then. You've been listening to Redshirt Cinema Club. If you've enjoyed the episode, consider supporting us on Patreon, where you can unlock 2 bonus episodes every month. And we'd love to hear from you. Email us at redshirtcinemaclub@gmail.com. See you next week.